Hello, CCF family. Welcome to Sunday Fast Track, where you ask real life questions and we give you biblical truths. I'm Joy Tanchi Mendoza, and we're here today with our speaker, my husband, Pastor Edric Mendoza, to answer some of your questions. So question number one. One of the most common sources of arguments between spouses are in-laws. In fact, there are cases wherein one spouse is still not fully cleaving, and meaning to say that the spouse's parents still hold more influence or power over the opinion of the spouse. So what is your advice for people who find themselves in this difficult situation?
I think two very practical things. One is there has to be that reminder first. And sometimes we take it for granted that people know these things automatically. So, hey, remind them that you cannot thrive in marriage unless you leave and cleave. So if there's still that sway or that influence on spouse A or spouse B by the parents, to remove that sway or influence practically, you want to ask, are you still living with them? That's one very practical scenario. And it's very hard to have influence when you're living in the house of your spouse, right? So make sure that you are no longer doing that. There's obvious practical considerations, but if you can achieve that scenario sooner than later, then you will feel the liberty and the beauty of this passage coming true in your life. The second is you also want to ask yourself, are there other obligations that are still tying you? For example, in many Asian families, the daughter or son could be working for the family business. And because of that, it's very hard for you then to have influence when all of that influence is still present and affecting your marriage. So I would ask, how can I unravel myself from this situation and trust God to provide options where you can honor His instruction to really leave and cleave? Set up your own income stream that is not dependent on the family. I know these things might sound easier said than done, but here's the truth. When we follow God's words and go in faith, He will do what might even seem to be something impossible.
Thank you. And now the next question is, how can a wife submit to her husband when the reality is she's lost respect for him because of maybe infidelity, abuse, or just bad behavior?
I think you should answer this question because it's about the wife. But this is something I did touch on earlier, right? The beauty of how God works is even if a wife is in this situation, right, where she feels like, I can't get the respect back because of something you've done. Biblically, we remind ourselves that we do what we do for our spouse, not for their sake, but ultimately for the Lord's sake. That's very clear in Ephesians. Wives are to submit to their husbands as to the Lord. So ultimately, the Lord is our boss. So I'm going to show this respect to my husband, even if it's seemingly something he does not deserve at all, but I will do it because I'm doing it for the Lord. And if you heard the testimony of our dear sister Lisa, that's a great example. She said, even if the husband did not ask for forgiveness, did not apologize, she chose to forgive him anyway. And that was powerful because it actually worked something in her. And when it transformed her, she then became a blessing even to him and to all of the children and family around him. So let that be an encouragement for you as well. Even if it seems like it's hard to respect, remember who you really are respecting and giving it and doing it for. And then when you choose to do it, even when it's difficult, you watch what God will then do as a bonus and as a byproduct of that.
And I think in 1 Peter chapter 3, it says that husbands can be won over without a word by the behavior of their wives. All right, so what is your advice for singles now who in their heart of hearts just want to get married so that they can have sex without sinning?
Right. If in their heart of hearts they want to get married primarily because they don't want to have sex, they want to have sex without sinning, then don't get married. If that's your main reason for getting married, because that's not how God designed it. He didn't say you need to be married so you can have sex. Sorry, to be clear, you don't get married just to have sex. But what you really want to ask yourself as a single person is, am I so complete in the Lord right now that if He does have a partner for me, it will be a wonderful bonus. And in the meantime, if I am struggling with sex, as I was sharing in the message earlier, it doesn't make it an excuse for me to then look for marriage, because it could be the fundamental problem is self-control. You're not allowing the Holy Spirit to provide that in you. Yeah. And as we saw earlier as well, as I unpacked through Paul's words, there is a charisma, a gift to be able to stay pure even in the context of being single. So I would remember those things. And if your main motivations are right, and God does lead you to get married, then by all means, enjoy sex then.
Because we also have to practice purity even in marriage.
Yes.
So if you can't control yourself when you're a single
That's a good
person,
thought,
it doesn't mean that you automatically can practice purity when you are married. Okay, there's a saying that when you're single, the enemy will do whatever he can to tempt you to have sex outside of marriage. But then when you are married, the enemy will do whatever he can to stop you and your spouse from having sex. So what is your advice to married couples who are struggling with their intimacy today? And whether it is because of lack of time or perhaps even being physically unable to be intimate with one another, how would you advise them?
My thoughts for you are two things. Number one, just do it. Nike slogan, right? But number two, as I unpacked more honestly earlier, you need to go deeper and say, why? Why are you really not wanting to have sex? And if your reasons are not holy, and we've looked at that in the message earlier, then you need to be able to come to God, because it's not an issue of you and your spouse and the sex. The issue is you and God, and why you're not able to obey what He wants for you and appreciate the blessings He has for you when you obey. That detail will be the solution for you to then enjoy sex better in your marriage, right? That's what I would say. Just do it. And second, go a little bit deeper.
Thank you so much, Pastor Edric.
It's so weird here. You can say honey bunch,
Okay, honey.
sweetie pie.
And before we close, for all the
Lover,
families out
lover.
there who would like to learn and bond and grow their relationship at home, we invite you to join our Across Motivate Family Camp happening on October 6 to 8 at the MMRC in Batangas. So to sign up, visit the CCF Across Ministries Facebook or scan the QR code on the screen. See you there. And that's it for Sunday Fast Track. God bless you all. Wow.